Thank you all so much for coming. My name's Ashley Allen. I'm with the State Department's Climate Change Office. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this event on the LEDS Global Partnership, Advancing Country Implementation of LEDS and NDCs. The LEDS Global Partnership holds a very special place in my heart because I am the coordinator based at the State Department that supports the initiative. And we really see this as a very valuable platform for countries from all over the world to share their experiences on low-emission development strategies, and now, ever more importantly, on NDC implementation, because the two are so closely linked. So thank you again for coming to the U.S. Center for this event. Thank you also to our online audience. We hope that you are following the conversation from all over the world, and be sure to ask us your questions with hashtag AskUSCenter on Twitter. Those of you in the audience will have a Q&A session at the end, so please do save your questions, and I'll run around a microphone at the end of the session. I'd now like to introduce our moderator and our panelists, as well as our opening speaker. First, let me start with the moderator, Mr. Stephen Kinguyu from Kenya, from the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources. We are honored to have him with us here to keep the conversation going. He is currently the co-chair of the LEDS Global Partnership. Dr. Fernando Farias from the Ministry of Environment in Chile. Ms. Nguyen Trinh from the Ministry of Planning and Investment of Vietnam. Mr. Rishmand Asi from the Ministry of Environment of Côte d'Ivoire. And Mr. Grigol Lazarievi, who is the head of the Climate Change Service in Georgia. So we have a very distinguished set of panelists today. I'd now like to turn it over for some brief opening remarks to Dr. Steve Hammer from the World Bank Group, who is also the other co-chair of the LEDS Global Partnership. Steve.
Thanks very much, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon. Thank you to those who are joining us online. I'm pleased you can join us today. This is an important and I think very interesting session. For those of you who've been working on climate action planning at the country level for a long time, we've lived through different generations of engagement, planning activities, types of plans, and now we're in the world of NDCs. And what really is important is that we begin to understand how different initiatives begin to fit together in a meaningful way. So I'm hoping that that's what we'll be able to talk about this afternoon. We've got a very distinguished panel. Again, it's always better to hear from the practitioners rather than folks like me, but I wanted to spend a few minutes just giving you an overview if you're less familiar with what the LEDS Global Partnership tries to do, so that you can understand how you might be able to plug in or how it might benefit you and the work that you're currently doing on the ground. Well, so I'll turn it over to Stephen after I offer some opening remarks, and then we'll wrap up after some Q&A. So the Global Partnership is, at its essence, it's a practitioner network. It's made for people like you, and it's occupied by people who hold positions similar to yours in different countries. And the kinds of activities that the partnership runs at a regional level, at a global level, are designed specifically to address needs that you have flagged. And they include different types of working groups where you can get very actively involved that take on very specific issues. It puts the collective brain power or knowledge or experience of practitioners on the ground to tackle issues of common interest. And it does that, again, in a way that you can access it in your country, but it's also operating at a regional level so that you can begin to find the peers in government, in civil society, who are interested in the same issues, and that you might be able to tackle similar issues on a regional level. So you can see up here that there are a series of regional platforms in Africa, in Asia, and in Latin America. Ron, if you just wanted to make a real brief announcement. This is Ron Benioff, the co-director of the LEDS Global Partnership. He wanted to real briefly just interject to say something about one of the newest regional platforms that's being created.
Thank you, Steve. Just really excited to announce that in December we'll be launching the new Eastern Europe and Eurasian platform at a workshop in Budapest with support from USAID and other partners. So really exciting to now have a fourth network and be able to work with leaders from Georgia and other countries, and very happy to collaborate with others here on development of this network. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ron. So if you're looking for specific examples of the kinds of things that you can benefit from or get involved in, here are a few. There are obviously training events. There are different types of regional gathering or peer learning events. There's some actual more operationally focused activities where we actually take on issues that are germane to a particular country or institution, and we bring the collective wisdom of the partnership together to apply it towards those particular challenges, and then use that as a pilot, and then try and bring that to the global community. There are communities of practice, a more traditional way forward, but again, one that's uniquely focused on low emission and climate resilient development. So this is a great user community for those of you who are working on these issues on a regular basis. Advisory support is a great benefit of membership in the partnership, because this is basically saying there's a lot of talent out there and I can actually have them come help me, in particular on the thorny questions that I'm facing every day. And this is a no-cost advisory support service. In some cases it comes from the Secretariat, in some cases it comes from other institutions who specialize in this kind of work, and they can be made available to you, and we've used it in over 40 countries so far over the last 5 or 6 years. Again, different ways that you can engage. You can be someone who benefits from the knowledge, or you can be a contributor to that knowledge. And so it is part of the peer learning. It is through these pilot programs. It is providing training, learning, sharing what you've learned over the years through that difficult experience, and help others learn the things to avoid. Often that's as important as to what they should do, but what to avoid. There are these topic-specific communities of practice that we really welcome active engagement, because again, this is how we can begin to fertilize ideas and help them move from an example that works in your locale to something that works at a national or a global scale. Now, part of the purpose of this session is, again, to begin to weave together how a practitioner network like this exists in a world where NDCs are the newest alphabet acronym that we need to know. And part of what is unique about the LEDS Global Partnership is its focus on you, the practitioner, and this peer-to-peer learning, knowledge sharing, what have you. For those of you who haven't heard yet about the NDC Partnership, it's going to be formally launched on the 15th. This is something that's been under development now for several months, better part of the year since Paris. And many global institutions, including the World Bank, are planning on participating actively in this partnership, which is really trying to maintain the momentum, accelerate the momentum to support countries in delivering on their INDC commitments. So if this is an attempt to bring different initiatives together so that we can work more seamlessly, to share knowledge more transparently, and importantly, to help practitioners on the ground understand what this sometimes foggy landscape, help clarify that. Help, again, make referrals to the knowledge providers, the information resources, or in the case of the LEDS GP partnership, practitioners, peers of yours who are thinking about the exact same issues in a different country. So it's a natural alliance between these institutions, and we're very pleased that these two types of activities can come together so seamlessly. So you can get a sense of the activities that are going to be undertaken over the next year. It's going to continue with a lot of the stuff that's been going on in terms of peer learning, advisory services, some types of technical cooperation in the communities of practice. But they really want to focus heavily, the LEDS GP wants to focus heavily on expanding the amount of support that's available to early movers. So again, if you can identify things where you would need help, stand up, ask for this assistance, and the LEDS GP is going to be there to help you out. Helping build that bridge between initiatives like this and the NDC partnership is another key activity, trying to figure out what is the right niche for different member institutions to fit together, how we can all play together more nicely in this global landscape. That'll be a key focus of the Secretariat and the membership. And then, again, it's a practitioner network. It lives to answer your questions, to meet your needs. And so it's going to try, as always, to be very responsive to the questions or the issues that you're putting on the table and try and address those as quickly as possible. So let me stop there. I'm going to turn it over now to Stephen and our network of experts. And I look forward to hearing about the work that you're doing on the ground, the climate planning efforts that you undertook, the commitments that you've made, and now what you're doing to try and fulfill those commitments. So, Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Steve. It's my pleasure to moderate this panel. I'm honored. So, without wasting any further time, I'll turn to Dr. Fernando Faria, and I would want just to request you to, in a nutshell, tell us some of the ways in which Chile is linking NDC and LEDS, and how the LEDS GP in particular has impacted this work. And you are also free to share any other lessons that you think are relevant for this forum and for the participants. So over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for the presentation. Well, I belong to LEDS LAC regional platform that stands for the Latin American part of LEDS GP. I'm glad that several fellow colleagues of the platform are part of the audience. I see Iris Jimenez from the government of Mexico. I see Amalia Amin, that's from the donor side, from Inter-American Development Bank, and also some colleagues that have benefit from activities that we've done, like Freddy Fuertes from Ecuador, Ambrosio from Chile. So it's a sort of a group that we are working for a number of years. I would say that in activities related to LEDS LAC. LEDS LAC started in 2012, and I would like you to provide some figures in order to show you how LEDS LAC has evolved. And because I'm an engineer and I like to talk with figures, I think that figures can talk sometimes. Well, we, as a regional platform, started to work in 2012. And as of November 2016, this means now we are 950 members officially part of our platform with a great number of countries involved, mostly from the Latin American country, but also other countries are part. They decided to join our platform. We are organized through a steering committee integrated by representatives of governments and NGOs, and local NGOs, and international organizations. We have terms of reference for operation of this steering committee, and every month we conduct a phone call involving, I would say that at least 15 people are attending these phone calls, and a lot of interaction, these 1 hour phone calls. Currently, the Secretariat is operated by the Peruvian organization Libélula, with technical support from the Tropical Agriculture Research and Higher Education Center, CATIE, based in Costa Rica. And the platform activities are developed with financial support from several partners, including LEDS GP's Secretariat, with US Department funding. So thanks, Ron, Caroline, for the always support to us. The Inter-American Development Bank, as I said before, the World Bank, European Union through Euroclima, which is a new player and a new donor that we are having. CAF has also been instrumental in the last activities. So we have a number of donors and also countries that are operating on a regular basis. I think this is important. I mean, it's not only one-off, but we have a sort of a bond, a link with countries, with donors, with research institutions. We organize dialogues, exchange, and capacity building activities, both online and face-to-face, but mostly I would say online. And according to priorities, we are defining as a steering committee every year. So sometimes they are changing according to the times. Like, remember I said we started in 2012 when NDCs, for instance, weren't part of the whole discussion. But now it's a central part of what we are doing under LEDS LAC. The last regional workshop, it was the 5th one, was conducted in Panama, September last year. We had 234 representatives of governments, civil society, and international organizations from 33 countries. So I would say a massive activity that was planned to be back-to-back to the Foro Latinoamericano del Carbono of the World Bank, which I think was instrumental for having a good mass of people attending both activities. Finally, from LEDS LAC, I will say that we conduct these webinars. Every fortnight, we have webinars that are widely attended online, and we are very proud that in some webinars we have got over 100 people attending the subject, because people in the region understand that these are good material, and in 1 hour and a half they can take something away that is that is good for them. Finally, with regards to Chile's engagement, I would say that the Ministry of Environment of Chile was part of the first meeting back in 2012 in London. At that time was the former head of the Department of Climate Change, that was Andrea Rudnick, the position that now I'm holding in the last year. And we, as a Ministry of Environment of Chile, we try to be the champions in Chile in order to include more institutions within the boundaries of LEDS concept, the LEDS platform. Myself, I had the honor to be the first chair of the LEDS LAC platform back in 2014. And now we have had more chairs because we think that it's good to be rotating and having different countries. So far, chairs have been only representative from governments. I think that's been something good also in order to keep a good momentum into the LEDS LAC. We, as a Ministry of Environment, have been involved in all of the regional workshops. As a matter of fact, we in Chile organized the third out of the fifth regional workshop in Santiago of Chile. We worked together with United Nations Commission for Latin American Economic, ECLAC. So we conducted this joint work with United Nations and the government of Chile in order to host this activity. I think that overall, this LEDS LAC in Chile has been a good opportunity for technical staff from different ministries to attend these activities, because we decided not only concentrate on the Ministry of Environment, but we also had people attending from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the Ministry of Transport, from Corfo, that is from the more financial side. Or in the case of Chile, we covered adaptation, mitigation, And also, I would like to say that in Chile, we try to put together people from the private sector also. And I remember that in Dominican Republic, we brought people from the winery sector, and they show us how active they were on carbon footprint. I think overall, there is several opportunities. We are now engaged in one related with the MRV for one of our NAMAs, and this Ambrosio is here in that. I would say that overall, the good news that the platform brought us is that it wasn't only for a few people, but it was an extended. It was not only for government, but also for private sector and also for NGOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando. I think that's very helpful. It's a mouthful of information on the activities of LEDS, LAC, and also of course, the interaction, of course, with the work of your own ministry and the government. And we congratulate the LEDS, LAC, and the government of Chile for the good work. Now, I'll turn to Madam Nguyen Thi Dieu, twin of the Minister of Planning and Investment of Vietnam. And the question I would want to pose to you is if you could highlight some of the policies and measures that Vietnam is implementing to scale up private and public investment in your low emission development strategies and NDC priorities. And perhaps also highlight which of these initiatives are successful, which are not so successful, and perhaps share any other information that you would find suitable, of course, for the audience. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. And also support Chile's representatives that Vietnam also want to be the champion in the LEDS activities. And I also think that thinking of back 4 years ago, when the first Asia LEDS forum platform established, and at that time in 2012, Vietnam also approved our green growth strategy, and I think it is a coherence, and we are very proud of that. And from the beginning, we have a lot of support from development partners, and also from the formulation and come to the implementation. We are also happy to join the LEDS GP and also Asia LEDS Forum. And from that, we get a lot of support and a lot of exchange. And we think that it is, we are all want to be the champion, but in a very healthy competition, I have to say. And after 4 years, I think that at that time, I am the only one from the planning or economic ministry to attend the forum. But now I also observe that there's also representative from the Ministry of Finance and also other Ministry of Economics in the region and also at the Global Forum. And I think this is a very positive side for us to link all the cross-cutting issues from the planning down to technical issues, and also we come down to the real implementation where we can find the financial resources to support all of our targets and all of our ideas. And in Vietnam, actually we already established what we say that successful story, that we have quite a good legal framework, that we already have our green growth strategy, we have our climate change strategy, and after the COP-21, we come back and we already established the NDC task force led by the Ministry of Environment. It is the focal point of UNFCCC in Vietnam. And the NDC task force is also in charge for preparing the draft of Paris Action Plan at the national level. And MPI, my Ministry of Planning and Investment, is also active in that, and we are the focal point for the Green Growth Strategy implementation, and we already working very closely with the focal point for UNFCCC and also submit to the government that we should use or we should promote the existing and ongoing efforts in the low emission development strategies implementation and also green growth activities to upskill the implementation of NDC and also Paris Agreement at the national and also subnational level, because it will help the provinces or the subnational authorities to feel that we are going a consistent way, not to burden for them, not have new things, but actually we should follow the consistent and systematically. And based on that legal framework, we'll come down to the financing resources identification. That is the responsibility of my Ministry of Planning and Investment. And we already established, formulate the Climate Finance Task Force that focused to exploit all the external resources for implementing our low emissions strategy. And this Climate Finance Task Force is quite active, and we work to coordinate with our development partners. And we already, before we identify the external resources, we also have to estimate how much we need to implement our green growth strategy. And we're already working closely with the World Bank and with the UNDP and other donors to complete the study, what we call the climate expenditure and investment review. And from that, we know how much we need and how much we already cover by the government and also by the development partners. And the figures is coming out that if we want to achieve our commitment of 8% of reduction of emission, then we have to need around $300 billion up to 2020. And we already covered every year from the state budget by 30% from the government budget, 60% from the government budget, and 30% from the development partners, and the remaining from other resources. And from that figures, we already established together with development partners for what we call the framework for mobilizing resources for implementing green growth and climate change in Vietnam. That is for external resources, and also for the government domestic state budget. We also have our national target program for green growth and climate change. And also, we also have some others, because climate change and green growth is cross-cutting issues, and is also integrated in many other national target programs like the New Rural Areas program, and also poverty program, and many other national target programs. So from that, I think that from the government, we would like to make the state budget like a catalytic factor to mobilize the private sector involved. And currently, we are working very closely with the State Bank of Vietnam and also GIZ and IFC to have the circular to guide commercial bank in Vietnam to have the credit lines, green credit lines, to support all the SMEs to have the green, like a green support for their green projects. And also we have the IFC working with International Financial Corporation to join their global program for green bond, where we hope that we can explore the financial market for supporting the green activities in Vietnam. And we think that you also mentioned that what is the least successful story, but I think that it is very new to us, and we are on try, and we cannot say it is least successful, but the important thing that we already have a try, and then we make a lot of efforts to make it, and we believe that we're strong together, and also from the think tank, from the LEDS GP and also LEDS Asia. We hope that all the initiatives, especially engaging the private sector for supporting low emission development strategies in Vietnam and also in the Asian region, as well as at the global level, we have no regret or fail stories. But I wish that we will have all successful story. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And may I just ask our panelists, because we want to make sure to get to some questions as well, and Stephen, I know
Yeah,
that you have to
yeah.
go very soon, to just be very, very brief in our
Very
in our
well.
questions.
Thank you, Ashley, for that help. And thank you, Nguyen, for that very informative piece. I think you have touched on both the work of Asia LEDS platform and also the work of your own ministry and government at large. And I don't want to reiterate that because of time, but that was very good. Richmond, I turn to you now. And I would want to ask you to kindly tell the audience about Cote d'Ivoire's NDC commitments, and of course, from your own perspective, also comment on in-country capacity to implement these commitments. So the floor is yours, Richmond.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I would like just to thank my colleagues that are here in this room. My colleague Eddie from Secretariat Africa LEDS Partnership, backside, and also my co-chair, Stephen Kingu, that is co-chair of Africa LEDS Partnership, and also thank all our colleagues from Global Partnership LEDS, and just thank all of you that allow us to talk about our NDCs and talk about our LEDS, Global African Partnership, and we are working on so many fields that we can share during this commitment. Okay, so firstly, I just would like to say that before talking about mitigation actions, it's very important to have strategies, because without strategies, we can go through any way with all actions that can be go and not allow us to permit to achieve our goals. And for my country, as a lot of countries in Africa and developed countries and developing countries in the world, our NDCs are most of them based on actions, and actions strongly come from some strategic sectoral strategies that not involve correctly climate change. And we need to have mitigation actions to develop them, like low emission development strategies that can help us to have a very good orientations of our actions that we need to plan in our NDCs. And for that, Cote d'Ivoire NDCs is based on three sectors, donc priority sectors that are energy, coupled with transport, and also agriculture, and also coupled with forestry, and last one, waste. And for that, we planned to reduce our greenhouse gases emissions of 28% by 2030, and with a very increasing of renewable energy in the mixed electric of 42%. Actually, we are less than 2%. This is not good for us, and we need to move forward and to have a very good ambitions and effort for that. And for this commitment, we are working to our capacity, and we have actually an interministerial committee that is working on climate change. This is very important, that we need to have a very strong arrangement, institutional arrangement, to implement our NDCs and to implement our LEDS project. So for that, we have a very good, interesting interministerial committee that involves all ministries, like finance, planning, and so on, sectoral ministries. And we also have prepared, because our NDCs are actions, so we need to translate that in projects, in concrete actions projects. So for that, we have now a draft of a business plan. This is very important for us, to translate our NDCs in project and in business plan. So this is why, to do that, LEDS is very important for us to have very good orientations to translate our NDCs actions in concrete projects. And thirdly, we have also a very annual plan of capacity building, because this is a very good opportunity to have a LED project in our country, to have consultations wide consultations with all national stakeholders, and to allow us to develop sectoral strategies in the fields of energy, transport, and so many sectors that are very prioritized for us. Then we are developing a lot of projects. So this is very important to translate our NDCs and to have some low emission development strategies. And we also have an MRV system that can allow us to have a very good update, very good update of our NDCs every 5 years. That I just would like to, before end my speech, to say that we have our NDCs is direct linked with our national development plan. That is from 2016 to 2020. So when we were preparing our NDCs, we were also preparing our national development plan. And thanks to the Africa LEDS Partnership, we had a lot of consultations, so this is interesting for us. And we have several workshops, like the last one in Kigali for the Africa region. And I would like to thank every donors that can help us to move forward, to help to have in our country a lot of low emission development strategies. That is very important, and that is very priority before implementing our NDCs action in mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richmond. I think you touched on key points concerning Côte d'Ivoire's NDC and the plans, of course, in place to ensure implementation, including an interministerial committee and a business plan, and of course the fact that also your NDC is also linked to your national development plan, and I think that's a lesson that we can all learn. Now, lastly, to our good friend Grigol Lazarivi from Georgia, Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources Protection. And the question that I would want to throw to you or to pose to you is to kindly ask you to briefly highlight Georgia's NDC goals and also touch on the policies or policy instruments that you have put in place to ensure, of course, that these goals are achieved. The floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon or good evening. It is clear. Thank you very much for invitation. Georgia prepared its INDC and submitted timely. According to our INDC, Georgia intends deviation from baseline by 15% unconditionally, and in case of financial and technological support, by additional 10%. 25% deviation from baseline ensures that emissions of Georgia by 2030 don't exceed 60% of 1990 levels. During preparation of INDC, mainly was used results achieved in preparation of low emission development strategy. LEDS is supported by government of United States via USAID and its contractor company Mineral International. Already is established baseline and mitigation scenarios, and now soon will finish preparation of LEDS. However, in Georgia is very specific situation. We as non-Annex 1 country have not quantitative obligations to reduce GHG emissions. And we start actually from zero. We need to create a system how achieve implementation of NDC. In this field, we start preparation of climate action plan 2021-2030. And this preparation of this plan is supported by GIZ. In details, if will be questions, I will provide information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grigol. That was quite fast, but it was also a mouthful of information on what Georgia, of course, is planning to do through its NDC and the kind of support, of course, that's receiving, of course, from different partners, and of course, what is already achieved, including the establishment of a baseline. And I would want to commend you for that, and commend also the government of Georgia for the good work. So with the permission of the audience, I would want to let the panels pause or rest, and then hand over the moderation to Ashley, who will take it over from me at this point. And thank you very much for the time. Ashley.
Thank you, Stephen. Round of applause for Stephen. Thank you. Stephen's time is very highly demanded at these COPs, so he has to run to yet another event to speak right now. But I would just like to also thank our panelists and point out that, you know, it was interesting that each of you talked about different sectors that are very important to reducing emissions in your countries. So LEDS and NDC work isn't all just about the planning and the MRV, and also not just about the energy sector, which many people think, but also we heard about agriculture and the forest sector and the waste sector, and I think that's very important to note as well. What questions do you have? If you'll just raise your hand, I'll bring you a mic, and then we'll turn it over to our panelists. We have about 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
Hi, I'm Ken Andrasco. I'm the co-chair of the AFLU Working Group for the LEDS Partnership. Fantastic presentations. I guess one of the things many of us are wondering is how central is the LEDS concept to your efforts to figure out your response to the Paris Agreement? Is it something that is a unifying principle that you're building around significantly, or is it one of many different initiatives and efforts that you're undertaking in order to try to figure out how to coordinate your response across sectors? Thanks.
Maybe I'll turn first to Fernando for that question.
Well, thanks, Kenneth, for the question. I'll talk about the case of Chile. Since presenting our INDC, we started working on, we call it the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which is the document through which we are implementing several promises we made in our INDC. In the case of our INDC, we choose to have 5 pillars: mitigation, adaptation, finance, technology transfer, and capacity building. In the case of mitigation, we work together with the different ministries in order to create, we thought that we needed a single sort of mitigation plan. But soon we realized that instead of having one single for the country, for the sectors made much more sense to have mitigation within their own strategies. I'm saying that the Ministry of Energy was having a long-term development energy strategy, and we were discussing why don't we better make climate change part of your energy development strategy, but at the same time will serve us in order to fulfill our INDC, since in the case of Chile, energy accounts for nearly 70% of GHG emissions. So we made the same with the forestry. Forestry is, in the case of Chile, we are one of the few countries in Latin America where the forestry sector absorbs CO2 instead of emitting. And they were also developing a forestry strategy, and we saw that we could make both. Develop the forestry strategy, but also to put elements of mitigation within their strategy. We necessarily don't talk about LEDs, but at the end of the day, are strategies conducted by governments or by sector of governments aiming to do mitigation. So sometimes it's a bit of We don't want to put some more words or concepts if we realize that the sectors, the ministries are doing what we expect to do in order to comply our INDC.
Thank you. Thank you, Fernando. Any more questions? Have Sam?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Sam Bickersteth from CDKN, which co-leads the Secretariat for LEDS Global Partnership, and thank you very much to my friends on the panel. I was particularly interested from Fernando and Mrs. Tring about this sense of building a community of practitioners in your regions, and your regions have been at it. But I kind of was wondering why you do this, because both of your countries are lighthouse countries. You're ahead of many of the other countries in your region in respect with the ambitions in your NDCs and your transformation to green economy. You're a very busy guy, Fernando. How do you find why do you find the time, not how do you find the time, why do you find the time to do this, and what do you, as Chile or you as Vietnam, Mrs. Tring, get out of being part of this community?
So thank you for your question. And I think Sam's question is also linked to the first question. Actually, as I mentioned in my speech, that we already try to make things consistent from the global level down to national level and subnational level. Don't want to make too burden for the subnational authorities to catching up with a lot of new things at the global level and at the national level. And our team working closely with the NDC task force, and we identify that for implementing the low emission development strategies in Vietnam, it already covers 55% of activities stated in our INDC. So that means that we have consistent, we already follow our efforts, and we coordinate with the sectors and provinces that, okay, we are going on a right track, and we continue to keep our motivation. And this is a very unified and systematic way of thinking and implementation. And as Sam said, that how can we manage our time to devote to that? This is, I think it is one of the unique character of the LEDS GP and also Asia LEDS Forum, that we inspire ourselves within the members, and we also try to inspire others. Unless we can inspire ourselves, then we can inspire others, then we can manage everything. And we think that when joining the LEDS GP and also Asia LEDS Forum, we have a lot of support because we can meet what we think that is also the best think tank and also the best practitioners for us to exchange views and exchange stories. And then we can also engage banks. Already we have a lot of big banks here like ADB and World Banks, and our ambition is that we also try to engage the private banks like City banks or American banks, and we think that in June in Hanoi we already set the target for engage to making the LEDS GP or Asia LEDS like a brand names. So commercial banks want to find the added values when join LEDS GP and also join our LEDS activity. Then I think that when we find our core value and we find that we are meaningful for not only the commitments but the meaningful things that we want to pursue for our life, then we can manage to find time for all our activities. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. I want to say on top of what my colleague from Vietnam said, that I think that Latin American countries, well, we share a single language, but it is not a single language, it's a culture or thinking similarly how to approach the problems. So although, for instance, there are countries like Mexico, that's a large country, lot of experience at subnational level. In the case of Chile, we are only 17 million people, 17 million people. So we have still a lot to learn from others. And I think this is apparent, that is happening. I mean, I never think when I listen to a webinar that, okay, this is something that I learned before, or that is something that my colleague from the Ministry of Transport wouldn't be interested. Because I think everyone is learning. If you think that you learn, that you've done everything, then you haven't understand that what climate change is.
Richmond, let's ask a question to you. We're here in Africa at what some are calling the Africa COP, right? And you're a very active member in the Africa LEDS Partnership. Not just on the planning side, but on really getting the action done on NDCs. That's obviously going to be a challenge moving forward. What do you see are the biggest priorities for the Africa LEDS Partnership to move to implementation? What kinds of support can the LEDS Global Partnership provide you, or what kinds of lessons can you share within the region?
Okay, thank you. I just would like to note that in Africa region, we like a lot of innovative actions in mitigation. So we have a lot of projects, a lot of things that we need to do, sometimes like smart agriculture, sometimes like renewable energies, and so many things that are priorities for us. But if we haven't low emission development strategies in each sector, this will be very difficult for us to achieve our goals. Everything can go in every sense, in every ways, and this is a very big challenge that we are facing now. This is why a LEDS project is important for us. And as you probably know, in some countries like in mine, we have some laws in field of electricity, for example. And in this law of electricity, it mentions that we need to improve our access to electricity. But we don't say everything about how to improve the access of electricity. And if we have prepared a low emission development strategies in the field of energy, for example, in our law, we just mentioned that we need to improve our access to electricity by renewable energy only. This is very important for us to have strategies, mitigation, low emission development strategies in our country. This is what a small example that I can talk to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Come on.
Georgia is a small country with small emissions, but in any case, we wish to participate in global efforts to combat climate change. And many small countries, collectively, their share will be very principal. Georgia is a very rich country in renewables. Only 20% of hydro is utilized. Georgia is able to export clean electricity in other countries, by that reduce emissions in territory of other countries. We need the creation of incentives for clean energy producers and exporters in other countries. Our main purpose is to attract investors to generate clean electricity for export purposes.
Great, thank you. So also the obviously economic implications and economic opportunities from this work. Other questions? I know it's late at night, but we have just a couple more minutes. Is there any final question from the audience?
Thank you very much. I'm Jean-Paul Julia from the European Union. LEDS is a technical platform, and technical is very important. But in terms of energy efficiency and low emission, the main problem is about fiscal and political issues, and that the landscape is not identical when we compare Kenya with Chile and Georgia. What is your appreciation of the possibility to go up in the pyramid, up to the political level, after the brainstorming? Very interesting and very important to present this kind of platform. Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone have a good example of where the higher level decision makers in your country have gotten engaged on this issue? And you have here the high level political support.
Okay, this question is our main result of our first consultation of the LEDS project in Côte d'Ivoire. Because when we are planning to do it at technical level, because we are all technicians and we need and we know what is very necessary to do for mitigation actions in our country. So like what we are talking about and NDCs. And we involved all technical level from private sectors, from NGOs, from governments, and from territorial collectivity, and also from media. This is very important, yes, to have them, to relay information. And during the consultations, a lot of people say that if my minister don't allow me to attend your project or your program, what can I do? So it was a very big question for us, because we are technicians, we are technical level, and we have also the support of our level up level, but the up level need to be really sensibilized to help us to have the right way to implement our mitigation actions. We proposed a lot of things, but for example, in West Africa region, we have ECOWAS. We have ECOWAS, and the ministers in charge of environment are actually working to have a platform, a framework to discuss about regional and political aspects that we can put in place and we can move forward. And for that, they have a meeting on Sunday here at our Côte d'Ivoire pavilion to talk about this arrangement, insurance arrangement at level, more than country level, but regional level. This is very important for us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, any final comments before we close?
Yes, in addition, in Georgia, by decree of government of Georgia, LEDS coordinating committee was established, consisting of deputy ministers of K ministries, and chaired by our Minister of Environmental Protection. But we consider that it's not enough. We consider that should be more high-level committee on climate change, chaired by Prime Minister. And we new elected parliament and the government will consider this issue.
Great.
Very quick response that for the LEDS GP in our system, when we are allowed to join as a representative from the government, we always have to have the approval from the very highest political level. So that means that they are well informed for what we are doing, have been doing. And for all the activities that we are trying to be active in the region, our vice ministers always appear to deliver speech. And also we bring together all the provinces that are pioneer in the low emission activities, and we always have the head of province to attend all the activities that Ron or Caroline already observed in Vietnam when we host together with the Asia LEDS Forum and LEDS GP for activities. And we are also trying to formulate a good network among ministries, and we always give them flexible to choose the right people, the right persons, and the right moment to work with LEDS GP. And we always work very closely with the steering committee of LEDS GP and for identifying the topics for working in every year and beyond, so that we try to reflect the demands from sectors in our country and also in the regions. So that means that we try to connect both technical level and also at the political levels. And after each activities, we always have the policy brief to submit to our political higher levels to keep it like a workflows for new things in very near future. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say I have
I see a lot of value in having practitioners having good tools in order to propose good measures, good actions, and if you only try to address the political side but without substance, which I think, in my opinion, that LEDS GP is providing the countries, I mean, the substance to do good actions, the substance to good NAMAs that make sense, not only for showing and off and never again. I think that we are doing a good job as a platform that enriches our people, that is the people that also stays for longer. Staff people, technical people stays longer than the political side. Of course, political is important, but in this case, I want to also put the message of the importance of the technical side in order to have more a policy, a climate policy that will go in the timeline on the timescale that we all want.
Well, thank you all for your great examples and also for your leadership to inspire the rest of us to continue to also be ambitious in our mitigation actions. So thank you. A big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you.